What if the reason you feel so, completely exhausted by daily life isn't because you're doing things wrong, but what if it's because you're looking at the entire universe upside down?
I mean, that completely reframes everything, doesn't it? It really gets to the core of human suffering.
Right. Just think about it for a second. You wake up, you check your phone, you chase the next promotion.
The next dopamine hit.
Exactly. The next dopamine hit, the next relationship milestone.
Mm.
You spend all this energy trying to climb to the top of the ladder.
You're just desperately trying to find some sense of permanent peace or like solid ground.
Yeah, but what if the ground isn't where you think it is? What if the foundation of reality is actually above you?
And everything you're clinging to is just a fragile branch hanging down into a void.
Right, and that is exactly what we are going to fix today. So, welcome to the deep dive. We are embarking on this massive, really comprehensive exploration of Chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Which is traditionally known as Puruषottama Yoga.
Yeah, which broadly translates to the yoga of the Supreme Person, right?
Exactly. And it is arguably one of the most philosophically dense, just theologically profound sections of the entire epic.
And our mission for this conversation, the big question we want to answer for you by the end of this deep dive, is why this specific chapter is explicitly declared by the text itself to be the most secret teaching.
Yeah, the Sanskrit phrase is Guhyatamam Sastram.
Guhyatamam Sastram. Okay, we are going to figure out what makes this framework the ultimate secret of human existence. And I want to state clearly to you, the listener, right up front.
Oh, yeah, the research credit.
Yes, the foundational material for today's exploration was researched by Sachin Karnik. So all these incredible scholarly notes, the linguistic breakdowns we'll be using, that comes from his research.
And the research provided really highlights how this text operates as a bridge. Like, it takes these massive, abstract, cosmic metaphors and directly connects them to, well, to your Tuesday morning commute.
Yeah. The everyday psychological struggles we all face. So, let's just jump right in. If we are holding the map of reality upside down, how do we flip it?
Well, the chapter doesn't ease you in at all. It throws a truly bizarre image at you right in the very first verse.
To kind of shatter our normal way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
It introduces the asvatha.
Right, the cosmic sacred fig tree.
But, you and I have never seen a tree like this in nature.
No, definitely not, because it defies all earthly logic. The verses describe this tree with two very specific terms, urdhvamulam and adhakam.
Okay, let's break those down. Urdhvamulam means what?
It means its roots are above, like stretching upward into the sky, and adhasakam means its branches extend downward into the material world.
Wait, so it's an entirely inverted tree. Let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly.
Go for it.
If I'm standing on the ground right now, I'm looking up at a canopy of branches. But those branches are actually growing downward from the sky.
Exactly.
And the roots are entirely out of sight, just anchored somewhere infinitely high above me.
That is the exact visual the text wants you to hold in your mind. It's using physical biology to draw this ontological map of reality.
Because normally, a tree gets its nourishment from the dirt. It pulls water and minerals from the earth below, and it grows upward.
Right, and we implicitly apply that logic to our own lives. We think we come from the dirt.
We do. Our whole scientific worldview is built on that bottom-up structure. You get enough dirt, enough atoms bumping into each other over billions of years.
And eventually biology happens.
Yeah, you get a brain, and out of that brain, consciousness blossoms at the very top of the evolutionary tree. We think of spirit as an emergent property of matter.
But the text uses the inverted tree to radically reject that premise. The source of reality isn't found in the material dirt.
The root is the absolute.
Yes. The root, the mulam, is transcendent. And the branches, which represent the material universe, our bodies, the galaxies.
They spread downward. They derive from the root.
Exactly. Consciousness isn't a byproduct of matter. Matter is a downward growth from pure consciousness.
Wow. That immediately changes how you view your own existence. If you're trying to climb this tree to find security or purpose,
you're climbing the wrong way.
Right. If you keep climbing downward into the material world, you're getting further and further away from the root.
It's a complete wild goose chase.
So what exactly is growing on these downward branches? The text gives us a pretty detailed anatomy of this tree, doesn't it?
It really does. It says the branches are nourished by the gunas, the modes of material nature.
The gunas. Okay, remind me what those are.
They're the three fundamental qualities that govern everything: clarity, passion, and inertia. Sattva, rajas, and tamas.
So these qualities act like the sap running through the branches.
Yes, exactly like sap. They animate the tree, they cause the branches to swell and proliferate downward.
Okay, and if the gunas are the sap, what are we interacting with when we swing around in these branches? What's growing there?
The verses explain that the tender shoots, the little budding leaves at the tips of the branches, those are the sense objects.
Ah, the things we see, hear, taste, touch.
Yep. This ancient imagery perfectly captures the modern psychology of addiction, honestly.
It totally does. It's describing the dopamine loop thousands of years before neuroscience even existed.
We're constantly reaching for the next tender shoot. We think if we just get the promotion, buy the house.
Get 1,000 likes on a post, eat that amazing meal, we think we'll finally be satisfied.
But it's just another tender shoot on a downward growing branch. It's the ultimate existential treadmill.
And the text goes even further, right? It describes the larger leaves of this inverted tree.
Yes. It says the leaves are the sacred hymns, the ancient Vedic texts themselves.
Wait, really? Why would sacred texts be the leaves? Aren't they supposed to help you escape?
You'd think so, but that's a brilliant critique embedded right in the Gita. Historically, a lot of ritualistic traditions prescribe specific actions to gain worldly rewards.
Oh, like do this ritual and you'll get a good harvest.
Exactly. Or do this sacrifice and you'll go to a heavenly realm. The text is pointing out that this kind of transactional spirituality is still part of the material trap.
It's like modern manifestation culture. Like, if I meditate every day, I'll become a millionaire.
Right. You're just using spiritual tools to get better at chasing the tender shoots. Those practices might get you to a more comfortable branch, but you're still in the tree.
You haven't escaped at all. The leaves sustain the tree's growth, they don't sever it.
Precisely.
So we are essentially monkeys swinging from branch to branch, completely hypnotized by the leaves and the tender shoots.
And utterly unaware that the actual root is hanging infinitely above us, we're trapped.
So how do we get out? Does the text give us a way out of the canopy?
It is uncompromising in its solution. It states you cannot perceive the true form of this tree from within it.
Because you have no perspective. You're too close to it.
Right. The only solution given is to cut it down. And it provides the specific tool required, the strong sword of detachment.
And a sort of detachment. Okay, so we have to chop down the tree of our own worldly existence. But how we interpret that chopping has been the subject of massive debate, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The research notes dive deeply into how the great classical Indian philosophers completely disagreed on what this tree actually is.
And therefore, what it means to cut it down, right?
Exactly. Let's look at the three major philosophical schools, because they offer three totally different ways of viewing our reality.
Okay, let's start with the non-dual tradition. The Advaita school, championed by Sankara. How does he view it?
Well, for the Advaita school, only the ultimate absolute reality is truly real. Everything else is an illusion.
So when Sankara looks at the inverted tree,
He says the tree itself is an illusion. It's a cosmic projection. It feels real while you're swinging on the branches, but it has no independent existence.
but wait, if the tree's a hallucination, what does this sort of detachment look like? You can't physically chop down a mirage.
You can't. So for Sankara, the sort of detachment is discriminative knowledge.
Like waking up from the dream.
Yes, exactly. It's the intense realization that the tree was never truly real to begin with. You don't destroy matter, you pierce the illusion.
Okay, that makes sense for a non-dual framework. But what about the qualified non-dual tradition? Ramanuja's Visitadvaita school.
Ramanuja strongly disagrees with the illusion theory. In his framework, the material world is a real creation of the divine.
So the entanglement in the branches is real bondage.
Yeah.
You aren't hallucinating, you're actually stuck.
Right. And if you're literally chained to a real tree, just realizing it intellectually isn't going to free you.
Yeah, I can't just think my way out of handcuffs.
Precisely. So for Ramanuja, human detachment is vastly insufficient. The sword of detachment ultimately requires total surrender to the supreme person.
You have to give up your own egoic effort.
Yes. The detachment is detaching from your own pride and self-reliance and turning to the divine for salvation.
Interesting. And then we have the strict dualist tradition, the Dvaita school of Madhva. This is even further from the illusion theory.
Much further. Madhva insists on an eternal distinction between the soul and God. For him, this tree is a very literal, concrete prison.
And the soul is infinitely small and weak compared to the divine.
Right, exactly. So human detachment is entirely powerless against the cosmic tree.
Then how do we cut it down? If we can't lift the sword, what do we do?
In Madhva's view, the tree can only be severed by the direct grace of the divine. You practice detachment to show your readiness, but ultimately the divine swings the sword.
Wow. It is remarkable how one single image, an inverted tree and a sword, can be read as a psychological illusion, a physical trap, or a prison requiring a pardon.
It really highlights the versatility of the
But
text.
practically speaking, the lived experience of the problem is identical for us. We're caught in something we don't fully understand.
Yes.
It actually brings a modern analogy to mind. This whole inverted tree thing sounds exactly like looking at a massive oak tree reflected on the surface of a perfectly still lake.
Oh, that is a very potent way to visualize it. How does that map onto our experience?
Well, we're born into the water,
Mm.
and we spend our entire lives frantically swimming around trying to climb the reflection of the trunk in the water.
We dive down into the mud at the bottom, thinking that's where the roots are.
Exactly, because we assume trees grow from the bottom up. We exhaust ourselves trying to grab onto the reflection of the leaves. We are literally drowning, trying to find meaning inside an image.
When the actual physical roots are above us, entirely outside the water, anchored on the solid shore.
Right. And that analogy holds up across all those different philosophies.
Mm.
Wielding the sword of detachment isn't about destroying the world. It's not about running away to a cave.
It's about severing your false identification with the reflection in the lake. You stop trying to drink the reflection and you get out of the water.
Yes, as long as you demand that a reflection gives you permanent satisfaction, you will suffer. A ripple in the water destroys it.
Only the root on the shore is stable.
Okay, so if we accept this premise that we are caught in this reflection, we have to ask the next logical question.
How are we moving around inside this structure?
Exactly. If the material world is the branches, what is the me that is swinging from them? And if we're trapped across multiple lifetimes, how does that transition actually work?
This brings us out of the cosmic map and into the deeply personal mechanics of the soul.
Into the next section of verses, right?
Yeah, verses 5 through 11. The text says that the individual soul is an eternal fragment of ultimate reality. But when it drops into the lake, when it enters material nature, it draws to itself the five senses and the mind.
So it's not just a blank slate. It gathers up a toolkit.
It needs an interface to interact with the tender shoots. And the text gives us this incredible metaphor for how this interface travels when we die.
Oh, this is the wind and the scent thing, right?
Yes. It says that when the soul leaves a physical body, it takes the mind and the senses with it, just as the wind carries sense from their source.
Just as the wind carries sense from their source.
Mm-hmm.
That is beautiful, but it's also highly technical.
It's a very precise description of the subtle body. We usually only think of our gross physical body, flesh and bone.
You're leave behind.
Right. But your mental impressions, your deep-seated tendencies, unfulfilled desires, and the very faculties of your senses, they form a subtle body.
And it's invisible.
Completely unseen. Just like you can't see the wind, but you know it's there because it carries the smell of jasmine from the garden into your kitchen.
And once that invisible wind enters a new physical form, a new baby, it unpacks its luggage.
It boots up the old sensory software and a new piece of hardware, and immediately starts chasing the tender shoots again.
This invisible transition, it creates a massive crisis of perception, doesn't it? The text points out that the deluded don't see this happening at all.
They don't. They don't perceive the soul when it stays in the body, or when it enjoys sense objects, or when it departs at death. They only see the hardware.
They don't perceive the wind. They just wonder why the room smells like jasmine and assume the room generated it spontaneously.
Exactly. They lack the proper instrument of perception. The text says only those who have cultivated the eye of knowledge can see this true nature.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting, and I have to push back a little on behalf of the listener.
Go for it.
If the soul carries these senses invisibly, like wind carrying perfume, how can we possibly be expected to realize it's happening? Aren't we biologically hardwired to be blind to this?
That is a very valid critique.
Right. It feels like the text is judging us for not seeing something that is explicitly designed to be unseen by our species.
The text actually anticipates this tension. It raises an important question, which is why verse 11 issues a stern clarification.
What does it say?
It says that even if undisciplined people strive with all their might to see the self, they will fail, because they are devoid of awareness.
So our biological hardware is just designed to look outward at the branches.
Yes, we are wired for earthly survival. spotting predators, finding food. We are not wired to see the subtle body.
So if I can't just squint harder and I can't use a microscope, how on earth do I develop this eye of knowledge?
This is where we introduce a concept from the research notes called a performative hermeneutic.
Okay, hold on. Performative hermeneutic sounds like absolute grad school word salad. What does that actually mean for me on a regular Tuesday?
Fair enough, let's break it down. A hermeneutic is just a method of interpretation. Normally, we use an intellectual hermeneutic. We gather data.
Like reading a manual to understand how an engine works.
Exactly. You don't have to change who you are to understand the engine. You just acquire facts.
Right, I just download data into my brain.
But a performative hermeneutic means the knowledge is locked behind an action. You have to perform it to understand it.
Give me an example.
Think about riding a bicycle. You cannot learn to balance by reading a physics textbook about gyroscopic forces.
Oh, right.
The knowledge of balance only arises in your body while you are performing the action of riding.
Ah, okay, so the knowledge isn't a prerequisite for the practice. The knowledge is the result of the practice.
Exactly. You cannot understand the soul's invisible migration by reading a textbook. You only develop the eye of knowledge through the inner refinement of a yogi.
You have to meditate, practice self-restraint, actively sever attachments.
Because if your mind is constantly agitated by anxiety, if you're frantically checking emails and swinging from branch to branch,
The water of the lake is too choppy. I can't even see the reflection clearly, let alone realize there's wind moving across it.
that's it. The biological blindness isn't a life sentence, it's just the factory setting. The spiritual practices are the software upgrade required to unlock the new hardware.
That reframes everything. It's not about earning points with God, it's about neuroplasticity, rewiring your perceptive capacities to see what's right in front of you.
But as we move forward into verses 12 through 15, the text makes a massive, expansive pivot.
Right, it doesn't just stop at our individual souls.
No, if we stop there, we just become hyper-obsessed with our own personal spiritual journey. The text wants to shatter that isolation. It moves from the microscopic to the macroscopic.
It introduces this descending triad of divine immanence. Immanence meaning the divine is actively present inside the mechanics of the world.
It's a breathtaking sequence. It starts at the macrocosmic level. The ultimate reality declares that the divine radiance actually illuminates the sun, the moon, and fire.
So the physical light of our solar system, the actual photons hitting our eyes, that's a physical reflection of divine consciousness.
Yes. Then it moves down a level to the mesocosm, the planetary level. It says the divine energy enters the earth to sustain all living beings and becomes the nourishing sap that grows all plants.
So the gravity holding us down and the life force pushing green shoots out of the dirt is that exact same energy.
And then it gets astonishingly intimate. It zooms all the way down into the microcosm, the biological level inside your own skin.
This part blew my mind.
The text states, I become the digestive fire residing in the bodies of all living beings, and associating with the vital breaths, I digest the 4 types of food.
Let's really pause on that, because we are so incredibly alienated from our own biology today. We treat our bodies like fleshy cars.
Autonomous battery-operated machines.
Right. I put a sandwich in the fuel tank, my stomach acid breaks it down chemically, and I get energy to go to work. It's just blind mechanics.
But this text suggests we are not autonomous batteries. We're more like appliances plugged into a universal power grid.
Even the act of digesting lunch is a cosmic event.
What's so radical here is how it erases the boundary between physiology and theology. There's no separation between the sacred and the profane. Eating, digesting, these are sacraments.
The exact same divine fire burning in the core of the sun is the fire burning in my stomach digesting my sandwich.
The sun, the soil, the stomach, it's one continuous thread of energy. The universe is actively processing itself inside your gut.
You're entirely dependent on the divine, not just for salvation after you die, but for your basic biological survival right this second.
Without that fire, you don't metabolize. Without metabolizing, you die.
But it doesn't stop at the stomach. It enters the psychological realm in verse 15. This is a very famous verse, right?
Yes, the cognitive center. It declares, I am seated in the heart of all beings. From me arise memory, knowledge, and even forgetfulness.
Okay, memory and knowledge make sense. If this ultimate reality is the source of consciousness, of course it's the source of my ability to acquire knowledge. But forgetfulness.
It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, why would the perfect divine reality claim to be the source of ignorance or forgetting?
To understand that, think back to the wind carrying the scent across countless lifetimes. Imagine if you remembered every single detail of your
Every
existence.
trauma, every tragic death, every heartbreak from a million past lives.
Your mind would instantly shatter. You would be completely paralyzed under the weight of that data.
It would be cognitive overload on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. So forgetting is not a flaw, it is a profound act of grace. It's the psychological boundary that allows you to act in the present moment.
It clears the cache so you can focus on the lessons of this lifetime.
Yes. The divine governs the entire cognitive apparatus, giving the necessary information and gracefully withholding the rest.
And that verse concludes with a massive philosophical flex. It says, I am the one to be known by all the sacred texts. I am the author of the ultimate philosophy and the knower of the philosophy.
This is a radical epistemological claim. Let's break down what it means. Usually we think of the divine as the object of our search, the thing we're trying to find.
Right, by reading books or doing yoga.
But this says the divine is not just the object. It is the creator of the knowledge. It is the faculty of understanding operating inside your brain. And it is the knower who experiences the understanding.
It's like you're frantically searching your house for your glasses, and you suddenly realize you are using your glasses to look for your glasses.
Precisely. The instrument of the search is the goal of the search. The seeker, the seeking, and the sought are all powered by the exact same source.
Which brings us perfectly to the ontological climax of the chapter, verses 16 through 18.
The threefold Purusa doctrine.
Right. Because if the divine is the physical power in the sun, the fire in our digestion, and the faculty of memory, what is the ultimate nature of this reality? How do we categorize it?
This doctrine is the architectural blueprint of reality according to the Gita. It divides existence into three categories. First, we have the Ksara Purusa. Ksara means perishable or mutable.
So this is everything in the physical world. The downward growing branches, the leaves, everything that decays and dies. Matter.
Correct. The domain of constant flux. Second, we have the Aksara Purusa. Aksara means imperishable, unchanging.
The silent witness consciousness. The pure spirit. The observer that doesn't die when the body dies.
Exactly.
And this is the classic dualism that so many philosophies stop at, right? Matter versus spirit.
Yeah.
But here's where I have to ask a critical question.
Let's hear it.
If we already have a perfect category for perishable matter and a perfect category for eternal spirit, why do we need a third category? Isn't spirit enough?
That is the exact question this text was written to address. If you stop at the Aksara, the pure, detached spirit reality remains fundamentally split in two.
You have aloof spirit over here and messy matter over there, alienated from each other.
Right. And if ultimate reality is just a silent void, it cannot account for the deep, passionate unfolding of the universe. It doesn't satisfy the human heart's innate desire for connection.
A silent void doesn't digest your food or give you sunlight.
Exactly. It doesn't care about your suffering. So verse 17 introduces the climax. But there is another, the supreme person called the highest self, who, entering the three worlds, sustains them as the imperishable Lord.
The third category, the Purusama. Purusa meaning person, and Uttama meaning highest, the supreme person.
Yes. The Purusadama transcends both perishable matter and imperishable spirit. It encompasses them both, but is greater than the sum of its parts.
It provides a unifying foundation, the ultimate root that sustains both the chaotic branches and the silent soul.
It's a massive paradigm shift. It means the ultimate reality is not an empty void, and it's not a cold energy field. It's deeply personal.
A supreme person who actively enters the world to sustain it out of care. That means escaping suffering doesn't mean dissolving into anonymous nothingness.
No, it means entering into a dynamic, eternal relationship.
And that realization finally brings us to our core mission today. Why does the text conclude in verses 19 and 20 by calling this specific framework the ultimate secret?
Well, the text says, thus, this most secret teaching has been spoken by me. And the result is that the one who realizes this Purusottama becomes a knower of all things and worships with their whole being.
It says this understanding makes a person krita kritya,
Right.
one who has fulfilled all duties.
Yes, spiritually perfected.
Let's drill down into this concept of most secret, because our modern definition trips us up here. When we say secret today, we mean classified information.
Like a government conspiracy or something hidden behind a paywall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone maliciously hid it. But the research notes make it abundantly clear that this is not what the text means by Guyatamam, a secret teaching.
Not at all. It's not a cipher intentionally withheld by a cabal of priests. The blueprint is sitting right out in the open.
So why is it a secret?
It's secret because it is inherently, structurally inward. It's invisible to the outward-looking, horizontally oriented human mind. The research refers to this as requiring vertical epistemology.
Okay, let's translate that academic phrase. Epistemology is how we gain knowledge. So what's the difference between horizontal and vertical knowledge?
Well, normally we spend our lives gaining knowledge horizontally. We look around at the branches on the same level we're on. We collect data, read books, run scientific experiments.
We're trying to understand the nature of the tree by frantically counting the leaves.
Exactly. And you can count leaves for a billion lifetimes, but you will never find the root because the root is not on the horizontal plane.
It's not just another leaf to be categorized.
No. True knowing requires a vertical epistemology, looking upward or inward to the root, understanding everything from a top-down perspective.
It's like you can't understand the fundamental rules of a video game by just staring closer and closer at the pixels on the screen.
That's a great way to put it.
You can analyze horizontal pixels forever, but to understand the game, you have to look up to the programmer who wrote the code. You have to reorient your entire axis of perception.
Yes. And when you look up vertically, you realize the programmer is actively sustaining the pixels. Your digestion, sunlight, memory, they are all sustained from above.
And this is the performative hermeneutic again, right? It demands that intellectual understanding transforms into lived devotion.
When you vertically recognize that the Supreme Person sustains every breath you take, the only logical response is to worship with your whole being. Knowledge and love merge into the same action.
So what is the actual payoff of this vertical epistemology for the listener? The text says you become krita kritya, you have fulfilled all duties. Does that mean you just sit under a tree forever? Drop out of society?
No, and that is a very dangerous misconception. Krita kritya means liberation within life. You don't stop acting. The fundamental nature of your action changes.
How so?
Think about why we act right now. Most of our horizontal actions are driven by egoic striving, by a deep sense of psychological lack.
We're desperate to climb higher on the branches for security.
Right, karmic desperation. We're extracting our worth from the world. But once the root is known vertically, you realize you're already perfectly sustained by the Supreme Person.
That existential desperation vanishes. You don't need to squeeze self-worth out of the tender shoots anymore because you have the whole power grid flowing through you.
Precisely. Your daily activities become transparent offerings. You still go to the office, you still care for your kids, but it's no longer an anxiety-ridden climb.
It's a life of non-dual devotion. Even digesting lunch becomes worship.
The inner conflict ceases because you found the ultimate reference point. You're fulfilled because you recognized your eternal relationship with the source.
That is incredibly beautiful. Let's recap this massive journey for the listener just to make sure the architecture is crystal clear.
Let's do it.
We started by realizing the material world is an inverted tree or a reflection in a lake, and we're caught in the downward growing branches, swinging after tender shoots.
Then we tracked the subtle migration of the soul, carried on the wind of our own conditioned karma, which requires the inner eye of knowledge to perceive.
From there, we discovered the divine power grid, how the supreme energy actively powers the sun, our digestion, and our memory.
And finally, we arrived at the grand ontological climax. The Supreme Person, the Purushottama, who encompasses both matter and spirit in a personal cosmic reality.
And in doing so, we answered our core mission. We discovered why Chapter 15 is the most secret teaching, as researched by Sachin J. Karnik.
It's the ultimate secret, because truth can't be found by horizontally counting the material leaves. You can't analyze your way out of the trap.
The secret is only revealed through an inner vertical reorientation toward the root. It's about changing where you are looking.
Realizing the universe is an active, sustaining relationship with the Supreme.
Which brings us right back to where we started. We said this secret is hiding in plain sight, inside our perception of reality. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. As you go back to your day, your job, your life, if the ultimate secret of existence is hidden not by a lack of information, but by your own horizontal attachment to the endless branches of daily life, what might you finally see if you stop looking outward and start looking upward?